The courtroom stretched for miles in every direction. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the center of it all, surrounded by creatures from 1,000 different worlds. Some had scales, some had fur, others were just clouds of gas held together by force fields. All of them were here to judge humanity. Jake's hands were locked in energy cuffs. They did not hurt, but they made it clear he was a prisoner. Behind him sat Ambassador Nicole Brennan and the rest of Earth's diplomatic team. Their faces were pale and tight with worry. The lead prosecutor moved forward. His name was Quistar, and he belonged to a race called the Zelthari. He had 6 arms and eyes that glowed like hot coals. When he spoke, his voice echoed through every translator in the massive room. "We present evidence of humanity's crimes," Quistar announced. He waved one arm and a hologram appeared above the court floor. It showed human warships conducting military exercises near a protected star system. They build weapons of mass destruction. They expand without permission. They refuse to follow the laws that keep our galaxy peaceful. Nicole stood up. "We have never attacked another species. Every weapon we built was for defense only." Quistar's eyes flared brighter. "Defense? You have bombs that can destroy planets. You have biological weapons that can kill billions. You hide these things from the Federation, and you call it defense?" Jake wanted to speak, but his lawyer had told him to stay quiet. He watched as more evidence appeared. Ship designs, weapon blueprints, training videos of human soldiers. Someone had stolen classified information from Earth's military networks. Someone had given it all to the Federation. The trial lasted for 6 hours. Representatives from hundreds of alien species stood up to speak. Most wanted humanity punished. A few tried to defend Earth, but their voices were drowned out by the majority. Finally, the judges retired to make their decision. Jake sat down next to Nicole. "We are finished," she whispered. "I can see it in their faces. Maybe they will just fine us or put restrictions on our military," Jake said. He did not believe his own words. Nicole shook her head. "They are afraid of us. Fear makes people do terrible things." 2 hours later, the judges returned. The head judge was an ancient being called a Cathari. He was 15 feet tall with skin like polished stone. His voice was deep and final. "We have reached a verdict. Humanity is found guilty of crimes against galactic peace. The sentence is immediate quarantine of your entire star system. All human colonies beyond Earth must be evacuated within 1 standard year. After that, any human ship found beyond the quarantine zone will be destroyed without warning." Gasps filled the human section. One of the younger diplomats started crying. Jake felt his stomach drop. This was worse than he had imagined. The head judge continued. "The blockade fleet will take position within 48 hours. You have that long to leave Federation space. This court is concluded." The energy cuffs released Jake. Guards escorted the entire human delegation toward the exit. As they walked through the massive doors, Jake noticed something strange. Some of the older aliens, the ones who had been part of the Federation for millions of years, were watching them. Their expressions were not angry or satisfied. They looked almost sad. One of them, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, caught Jake's eye. It pulsed once in a pattern that Jake's translator read as a simple message. "Good luck." The human ships left Federation space 12 hours later. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Jake sat in his quarters and watched news feeds from home. The reaction was spreading like wildfire. Some people were angry, others were scared. Many were confused about what they had done wrong. President Daniel Hartman appeared on every screen the day the delegation returned to Earth. He stood in the White House press room, his face serious but calm. "My fellow humans," he began. "By now you have all heard about the Federation's verdict. I want to be clear about what this means. We have 1 year to bring all our people home from the outer colonies. After that, we will be alone. cut off from the rest of the galaxy. He paused and looked directly into the camera. But we will not surrender. We will not submit to extermination. If the Federation thinks we are dangerous now, they have seen nothing yet. Earth will survive this. Humanity will endure. The broadcast ended. Jake watched it from his apartment in Geneva. Through his window, he could see the lights of the city stretching out in all directions. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, the blockade fleet was arriving. 500 alien warships taking position around humanity's home star. His phone rang. It was his sister Kate, a captain in Earth's Defense Force. "Did you watch the speech?" she asked. "Yeah. Do you think we have a chance?" Kate was quiet for a moment. "I think we are about to find out what humans are really capable of when their backs are against the wall. Get some rest, Jake. We have work to do." She hung up. Jake looked out the window again. In the distance, he could see the first orbital defense platforms being moved into position. Earth was preparing for war. 3 days later, Jake received new orders. He was being transferred to a military facility in the Rocky Mountains. When he arrived, armed guards checked his identification 3 times before letting him through. The facility was buried half a mile underground. Dr. Lisa Chen met him in the main laboratory. She was the head of Earth's weapons research program. Around her, hundreds of scientists worked at computer terminals and testing stations. "Welcome to the last hope," Lisa said. "We have 11 months to build weapons that can stop a fleet of 500 ships. After that, they will come for us." 6 months had passed since the verdict. Captain Ryan Fletcher stood on the observation deck of Mars Colony and watched the last transport ship lift off. Below him, the dome cities were going dark one by one. 5 million people had called Mars home. Now it was becoming a ghost world. "All personnel evacuated, Captain," his second officer reported. "We are the last ones here." Ryan nodded. "Good. Seal the facility and prepare for departure." But Mars was not really being abandoned. It was being turned into something else, something the Federation would never expect. Ryan could not think about that now. He had his orders. The transport carried Ryan and his crew back to Earth. During the 3-day journey, he read reports from the other colonies. Europa was empty. Titan was empty. The asteroid belt mining stations were shut down. Humanity was retreating to its birth world for the first time in 200 years. When Ryan arrived on Earth, he was immediately sent to the lunar shipyards. The moon's far side was covered in construction facilities now. Ships were being built at an incredible pace. But these were not the exploration vessels or cargo haulers that humans had built before. These were weapons, pure and simple. Admiral Kate Morrison met Ryan at the main hangar. She was Jake's older sister and one of Earth's top military commanders. Her hair had gone gray in the past 6 months. The stress was showing on everyone. "Captain Fletcher, welcome to your new command," Kate said. She gestured to a ship behind her. "This is the EDF Defiance. She is one of 50 new warships we have completed. 40 more are under construction." Ryan stared at the vessel. It was smaller than the Federation dreadnoughts, but it looked fast and deadly. The hull was covered in sensor-absorbing materials. Weapon ports lined every surface. "What can she do?" Ryan asked. Kate smiled. "Things the Federation has never seen. Come on, I will show you." They spent the next hour touring the ship. The Defiance had engines that could push her to speeds no human ship had reached before. Her weapons included rail guns that fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed, missile tubes loaded with warheads that could phase through energy shields, and something new called a quantum disruptor that could tear holes in space itself. "The Federation thinks they know what we are capable of," Kate said. "They have seen our old ships and our old weapons. They think we are decades behind them in technology. But they are wrong. We just never had a reason to build weapons like this before." Ryan ran his hand along a control panel. "How many of these can we make before the deadline?" "Not enough. Even with every shipyard working at full capacity, we will have maybe 200 combat ships when they come for us. The Federation has thousands. Then how do we win? Kate's expression hardened. We do not fight fair. We do not follow their rules. We use every dirty trick humans ever invented, and we make them pay for every inch they take. Come on. There is more to see. They took a shuttle down to Earth. The destination was a facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Jake was there, along with Dr. Lisa Chen and dozens of other scientists and military officers. "Welcome to the War Room," Jake said when Ryan arrived. "This is where we coordinate everything." The room was enormous. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing the positions of Federation ships, Earth's defenses, and thousands of other data points. Hundreds of people worked at stations, planning and preparing for the battle to come. Dr. Lisa pulled up a star map. "Let me show you our strategy. The Federation will approach from multiple vectors. They will expect us to defend Earth directly, but we are not going to do that." "What do you mean?" Ryan asked. "We are turning the entire solar system into a weapon," Lisa explained. "Jupiter has been equipped with electromagnetic generators that can fry their sensors. Saturn's rings are now full of automated weapons platforms. Mars has been prepared for protocol-scorched Earth." Jake saw Ryan's confused look and explained. "If the Federation tries to use Mars as a base, we will deny them that option, permanently." Ryan understood. They were going to destroy Mars. The thought made him sick, but he could see the logic. "What about Earth itself?" "Earth has 3 layers of defense," Kate said. She pointed to the display. "Layer 1 is the outer system defenses, Jupiter, Saturn, and the automated platforms. Layer 2 is the near-Earth defense grid, thousands of satellites armed with everything from lasers to kinetic kill vehicles. Layer 3 is the planetary surface. Every major city has been equipped with anti-ship batteries. We have moved 2 billion people into underground bunkers." "Will it be enough?" Ryan asked. Nobody answered. They all knew the truth. It probably would not be enough. But it was all they had. Over the next 3 months, Ryan trained his crew on the Defiance. They ran combat simulations every day, attack patterns, evasion techniques, emergency repairs. His crew worked until they could barely stand, then got up and did it again the next day. Chief Engineer Amy Sullivan was in charge of maintaining the ship's systems. She was a genius with anything mechanical. Ryan found her working in the engine room late one night. "You should get some rest," he said. Amy did not look up from her work. "I will rest when we win, or when I am dead. Right now, I need to increase our engine efficiency by another 3%. "Why 3%? "Because that might be the difference between outrunning a Federation missile and getting blown apart," she said simply. Ryan could not argue with that logic. On Earth's surface, Major Chris Palmer was training the planetary defense forces. Millions of civilians had volunteered to fight. Chris had to turn most of them into soldiers in just a few months. It was an impossible task, but he did his best. The training camps were brutal. People learned to operate anti-aircraft batteries, pilot defensive fighters, and survive in the underground bunkers for months at a time. Children as young as 10 were being taught basic survival skills. Nobody liked it, but everyone understood why it was necessary. Ambassador Nicole had returned to Earth with intelligence she had gathered from her contacts in the Federation. She met with President Hartman in a secure bunker beneath Washington, D.C. "I need to tell you something," Nicole said. "The Federation has done this before. 43 times in their history, they have declared a species too dangerous to exist. Those species were quarantined and then eliminated." Hartman's face went pale. 43 species? What happened to them? "They are all gone. Dead. Extinct. Every single one," Nicole said quietly. "The Federation does not want to imprison us. They want to exterminate us. The quarantine is just the first step. Does anyone else know this?" A few of the elder species tried to warn me. They do not have the power to stop it, but they wanted us to know what was coming. Nicole pulled up images on her tablet. This is what happened to the last species that was declared too dangerous. The Federation bombarded their planet for 3 days straight. Nothing survived. Hartman looked at the images. They showed a dead world. Oceans boiled away. Continents cracked open. Cities turned to glass. How do we stop this? We make them afraid, Nicole said. Not just afraid of losing ships. Afraid of what we might become if they push us too far. Afraid that killing us will cost them more than they are willing to pay. The year was almost over. Across the solar system, the final preparations were complete. Weapons were armed, ships were ready, soldiers stood at their posts, and in orbit above Earth, the Federation blockade waited like patient predators. Jake stood in the war room and watched the countdown clock. 72 hours until the deadline. 72 hours until the Federation would give their final ultimatum. Are we ready? President Hartman asked. The deadline arrived on a Tuesday morning. At exactly 800 hours Earth time, every screen across the planet showed the same broadcast. The Federation fleet commander, a Cathari warrior named Zelthor, appeared in holographic form. People of Earth, his voice boomed. Your time of grace has ended. You have 12 hours to power down all military systems and accept purification. If you refuse, we will be forced to cleanse your system by force. Choose wisely. The broadcast ended. President Hartman was already in the war room deep beneath Colorado. Around him stood the military leadership of Earth, Jake Morrison, Admiral Kate Morrison, Dr. Lisa Chen, Major Chris Palmer. Captain Ryan Fletcher appeared via video link from the Defiance. Well, Hartman said, I suppose we should send them our answer. Jake had already prepared the response. It was short and simple. Hartman reviewed it and nodded. 2 minutes later, every Federation ship received the same message. Just 3 words, come and try. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien fleet began to move. 500 massive warships accelerated toward Earth. Their strategy was clear. Overwhelming firepower from long range. They would stay beyond human weapons range and simply pound Earth into dust. But they had made their first mistake. They assumed human weapons had the same range as Federation technology. Activate the lunar batteries, Kate ordered. On the far side of the moon, hidden weapons systems powered up. Railguns the size of buildings began tracking targets. These weapons could accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds. Their range was 10 times what the Federation expected. The first Federation ship exploded before they even knew they were under attack. A solid tungsten rod, moving at a fraction of light speed, punched through their shields and hull like they were made of paper. Then another ship exploded, and another. Chaos erupted in the alien fleet. They scattered, trying to find the source of the attack. Their sensors were not designed to detect simple kinetic weapons moving that fast. Phase 2, Kate said calmly. Release the hunter platforms. Around Earth's moon, thousands of small objects detached from hidden bays. They looked like asteroids or pieces of debris. But each one was an automated weapons platform powered by advanced AI. They began drifting toward the Federation fleet, moving slowly enough to seem harmless. Commander Zelthor regrouped his forces. He was confused, but not defeated. His fleet still outnumbered the humans 10-1. He ordered his ships to advance more carefully with shields at maximum. That was when Captain Ryan Fletcher and the human fleet attacked. The Defiance appeared out of nowhere, along with 49 other warships. They had been hiding behind the moon, their hulls coated in materials that absorbed sensor beams. Now they burst into the battle like wolves among sheep. Ryan's weapons officer fired the quantum disruptors. Space itself seemed to tear open near 3 Federation ships. The holes in reality lasted only seconds, but that was enough. The ships were pulled apart by gravitational forces that should not exist. Break formation and engage at will, Ryan ordered his fleet. Do not stay in one place. Keep moving. Make them chase us. The human ships were faster than anything the Federation had seen. They darted between enemy vessels, firing missiles and energy weapons at point-blank range. The missiles had a special surprise. They could phase through shields for a split second, just long enough to strike the hull directly. Federation ships began exploding faster than Zelthor could count. His advantage in numbers was meaningless if his ships could not hit their targets. "All vessels, fall back to defensive formation," he ordered. This could not be happening. Humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was supposed to be inferior, but as his fleet retreated, they encountered the hunter platforms. The harmless-looking debris suddenly came to life. Weapons ports opened, engines fired. The platforms swarmed over the nearest Federation ships like insects on a corpse. Each platform carried nano-weapons, tiny machines designed to eat through hull plating and destroy critical systems. Within minutes, a dozen more Federation ships went dark, their systems failing as the nanites spread through their vessels. Zelthor was forced to order a full retreat. His fleet pulled back beyond Earth's moon, regrouping at a safe distance. In the first engagement, he had lost 80 ships. The humans had lost 3. In the war room, Jake watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They will be more careful now. We had the advantage of surprise. It will be harder from now on. Let them be careful, Kate said. Every day they wait is another day we have to prepare. How are our losses? 3 ships destroyed, 7 damaged but repairable. The Defiance took some hits, but Captain Fletcher reports they are still combat capable. Ryan was indeed still in the fight. His ship had burns along the port side where a Federation beam weapon had gotten through their defenses. Amy was already leading repair teams to fix the damage. That was too close, Ryan told his crew. Next time we move faster. Their targeting systems are slower than ours, but they are learning. Over the next 2 days, the Federation probed Earth's defenses carefully. They sent small groups of ships to test different approaches. Each time, they met fierce resistance. The human defenses were layered and deadly. On the 3rd day, Zelthor made his decision. If careful tactics were not working, he would try overwhelming force. He called for reinforcements. Another 300 ships arrived from nearby Federation worlds. Now the aliens had over 700 ships. Even with their losses, they outnumbered Earth's fleet by more than 3-1. Zelthor planned his attack carefully. He would split his fleet into 3 groups. One would engage the human ships directly, another would suppress the lunar weapons, the third would bombard Earth from high orbit. Jake saw the new formation taking shape. They are getting smarter. This will be harder to stop. We have more surprises, Dr. Lisa said. She was in communication with the weapons research teams. It is time to activate the Jupiter protocol. Jake nodded. Do it. Near Jupiter, 500 million miles away, hidden facilities came to life. For months, human engineers had been working inside the gas giant's atmosphere. They had built generators that tapped into Jupiter's natural magnetic field. Now those generators powered up to maximum. The effect was immediate. Jupiter's magnetic field, already one of the strongest in the solar system, suddenly increased 1,000-fold. The magnetic pulse spread out in all directions at the speed of light. When it reached the Federation fleet, their shields overloaded. Electrical systems fried. Sensors went blind. A quarter of Zelthor's reinforcements were disabled in seconds. Attack now while they are blind, Kate ordered. Ryan and the human fleet surged forward. They targeted the disabled ships, destroying them before they could recover. It was brutal and efficient. In 20 minutes, another 100 Federation ships were gone, but the rest of the alien fleet recovered. They adapted their shields to block the magnetic interference. And now they were angry. Zelthor had lost nearly half his fleet. This was supposed to be a simple extermination mission. Instead, it had become a real war. Enough games, Zelthor growled. Bring in the planet killers. From the rear of the Federation formation, 6 massive ships moved forward. These were not warships. They were siege vessels, designed to crack continents and boil oceans. Each one carried weapons that could sterilize a planet in hours. Jake saw them on the tactical display and felt his blood run cold. We cannot let those ships get within range of Earth. We will not, Kate said. She opened a channel to all human forces. All ships. Target the 6 heavy vessels. Everything we have. Take them down now. Every human ship turned toward the planet killers. They ignored the smaller Federation vessels and focused all their firepower on the 6 massive ships. Railguns fired, missiles launched, energy beams lanced across space. The planet killers were heavily armored. They shrugged off the first wave of attacks, but the humans kept firing. More missiles, more railgun rounds, more quantum disruptors tearing at their shields. One planet killer exploded, then a second. The others began to fall back, their shields failing under the constant barrage. But the distraction cost Earth dearly. While the human fleet focused on the planet killers, regular Federation ships attacked from the flanks. The EDF Valiant was destroyed, then the Guardian, then the Resolute. Human casualties were mounting. Ryan saw his sister ship, the Intrepid, take a direct hit. It split in half and began tumbling toward Earth's atmosphere. He wanted to help, but there was no time. He had to keep fighting. "We are losing too many ships," Amy reported from engineering. "If this keeps up, we will have nothing left to defend Earth." Ryan knew she was right. They had hurt the Federation badly, but at a terrible cost. "All ships, fall back to defensive position Alpha. We regroup at the lunar base." The human fleet retreated in good order, covering each other as they fell back. The 83 weeks had passed since the first battle. The Federation had called for massive reinforcements. Over 2,000 warships now surrounded the solar system. They came from every corner of Federation space. Some species wanted revenge for their losses. Others simply wanted to complete the mission and go home. Commander Zelthor was no longer in charge. The Federation High Command had sent Admiral Vorath, a veteran of 100 wars. Vorath was cold and methodical. He did not care about honor or mercy. He cared only about results. Admiral Kate Morrison watched the enemy fleet from her flagship, the EDF Retribution. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built. But even this mighty vessel looked like a toy compared to the massive Federation dreadnoughts. "They have learned from their mistakes," Jake said. He was standing beside his sister on the bridge. "They will not rush in this time." "Good," Kate replied. "That gives us time to show them what real fear looks like." The Federation fleet moved slowly into the solar system. They came in a tight formation with shields overlapping. Scout ships moved ahead, checking for traps. They were being very careful. Admiral Vorath's plan was simple. Advance to Jupiter. Establish a forward base. Resupply and repair damaged vessels. Then continue the advance to Earth with fresh ships. It would take longer, but it would guarantee victory. The Federation fleet reached Jupiter without incident. The gas giant hung in space like a massive target, perfect for establishing a base of operations. "Begin landing procedures on the larger moons," Vorath ordered. "I want repair facilities operational within 6 hours." But as the first ships moved toward Jupiter's moons, something happened. The gas giant's atmosphere began to churn violently. Storms larger than Earth itself formed in minutes. The magnetic field, which humans had amplified during the first battle, was still active. But now it was doing something new. Lightning arced between Jupiter and its moons. Not normal lightning. These bolts were charged with enough energy to vaporize a starship. 3 Federation vessels were destroyed before they could even raise their shields. "Pull back!" Vorath ordered. "What is happening?" Dr. Lisa watched from Earth as Jupiter became a weapon. The facilities hidden in the gas giant's atmosphere were working perfectly. They had turned the largest planet in the solar system into a defensive barrier. But Jupiter was just the beginning. As the Federation fleet regrouped, they decided to bypass the gas giant and head straight for Saturn. Surely the humans could not have booby-trapped every planet in the system. They were wrong. Saturn's rings looked beautiful and harmless. Billions of ice particles orbiting the planet in elegant bands. The Federation fleet moved through them without concern. Then the rings came alive. What looked like ice particles were actually something else. Thousands of automated minds disguised to blend in perfectly. They had been waiting for weeks, dormant and undetectable. Now they activated. Explosions rippled through the Federation fleet. The mines were small, but there were so many of them, and they were smart, using AI to target weak points in shields and armor. Ships began taking damage from all sides. "Evasive maneuvers," Vorath shouted. "Get us out of the ring system." The fleet tried to escape, but the rings extended for millions of miles. Everywhere they went, more mines exploded. By the time they cleared Saturn's orbit, another 300 ships were destroyed or heavily damaged. Vorath was furious. The humans were making him look like a fool. His massive fleet was being torn apart by tricks and traps. But he still had over 1,500 ships, more than enough to finish this. "We continue to Mars," he ordered. "We will establish our base there and assault Earth from close range." Mars hung in space, red and silent. The colony domes were dark. The planet appeared completely abandoned. Vorath sent scout ships to investigate. They found no life signs, no active power sources, just an empty world. "Perfect," Vorath said. "We will use this planet as our staging ground. Begin landing operations." Over the next several hours, Federation ships landed on Mars. Engineers began setting up supply depots. Medical facilities were established to treat wounded crew members. Within a day, over 800 Federation ships were on or near Mars. In the war room on Earth, Major Chris Palmer watched the feeds from Mars. "They took the bait. All of them are there." Kate looked at Jake. "Are you sure about this? Once we do this, there is no going back." Jake nodded slowly. "Mars is already lost to us. Better to make it count for something. Give the order." Kate opened a secure channel. "Chief Engineer Amy, activate Protocol Scorched Earth." Amy Sullivan was not on the Defiance anymore. She was on a small stealth ship near Mars, monitoring the trap they had spent months preparing. Her hands shook as she entered the activation codes. "Codes confirmed," she said quietly. "Mars protocol is active. Detonation in 60 seconds. On Mars. Deep beneath the surface, devices that humanity had planted during the evacuation came to life. They were antimatter bombs, the most powerful weapons humans had ever created. Dozens of them, placed at key points around the planet's core. The countdown reached 0. Mars exploded, not just the surface, the entire planet. The antimatter devices detonated simultaneously, releasing more energy than 1,000 nuclear weapons. The planet's core was torn apart, the crust shattered. In seconds, Mars ceased to exist as a world. The explosion was visible from Earth. A new sun appeared in the night sky, burning so bright that people could read by its light. Then it faded, leaving nothing but an expanding cloud of debris. 800 Federation ships died in that explosion. Another 200 nearby were caught in the shockwave and torn apart. In one terrible moment, humanity had cut the Federation fleet in half. But the cost was staggering. Humans had destroyed their own planet. Mars, which they had worked for 2 centuries to colonize, was gone. Turned into a weapon of last resort. In his flagship, Admiral Vorath could not believe what he was seeing. The humans had destroyed an entire planet just to kill his ships. What kind of species would do such a thing? For the first time in his long military career, Vorath felt something he had not experienced in years. Fear. Not fear of dying. Fear of what the humans might do next. The remaining Federation ships pulled back to the orbit of Neptune. They needed time to recover from the shock. Vorath sent urgent messages back to the Federation High Command. This was not a simple extermination anymore. This was a war of survival. On Earth, the celebration was mixed with horror. They had won a major victory, but the cost was terrible. Images of Mars's destruction played on every screen. Some people cheered, others cried. Everyone understood that humanity had crossed a line. President Hartman addressed the world that night. His face was grave. Today we proved that Earth will not go quietly into the darkness, but we also proved that we are willing to sacrifice everything to survive. I pray that the Federation understands this message. We do not want to destroy everything we have built, but we will if we must. Captain Ryan Fletcher sat in the Defiance's mess hall with his crew. They were exhausted but alive. The ship had survived the battle near Saturn with only minor damage. "Do you think they will quit now?" one of the younger crew members asked. Ryan shook his head. "No. They have lost too much to quit. They will come at us with everything they have left. But now they know we will fight to the last breath. That might make them more dangerous, or it might make them afraid. We will find out soon enough." In deep space, the Federation High Command was meeting. Representatives from hundreds of species argued about what to do next. Some wanted to press the attack. Others wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to abandon the entire campaign. But there was another group, the eldest species, those who had been part of the Federation for millions of years. They had been quiet until now, but they were beginning to speak up. One of them, an ancient being called a Prothex, addressed the council. "This has happened before. Not exactly like this, but close enough. We hunted species that refused to be helpless. We killed them because we were afraid, and each time we lost something of ourselves. The humans are dangerous," another representative argued. "Look what they did to Mars. They destroyed their own world." "Yes," the Prothex agreed. "They did, because we gave them no choice. We declared war on them first. We came to exterminate them. What did we expect them to do? Submit peacefully to genocide?" The argument continued for hours, but something had changed. The easy victory everyone expected had turned into a nightmare. The Federation had lost over half their fleet, and the humans were still fighting. Back on Earth, Jake stood in the war room and looked at the tactical display. The Federation still had 700 ships. Earth had less than 100. The mathematics had not changed much. They were still badly outnumbered. The war had lasted 6 months. Earth was scarred but still fighting. The Federation fleet, once mighty with over 2,000 ships, was down to 700. Both sides bled and neither would yield. Admiral Vorath prepared for the final assault. He knew this would cost him dearly, but the Federation High Command demanded results. The humans had to be stopped before other species got similar ideas. If humanity could defy the Federation and survive, what would that mean for galactic order? Captain Ryan Fletcher stood on the bridge of the Defiance. His ship was one of 96 human vessels still in fighting condition. Around him, his crew prepared for what everyone knew would be the last battle. Either the Federation would break through and destroy Earth, or humanity would somehow hold them off one more time. "All ships report ready," his communications officer said quietly. Ryan nodded. He looked at the tactical display showing the Federation fleet approaching. So many ships. So much firepower. But his crew had fought impossible odds before. They would do it again. In the war room beneath Colorado, Jake Morrison monitored the approaching fleet. Dr. Lisa Chen stood beside him, her hand hovering over a control panel. On that panel was a single red button. The Doomsday option. Weapons so terrible that using them would make Mars look like a small explosion. "If we use these," Lisa said quietly, "we might win. But we will become exactly what the Federation accused us of being. Monsters! Jake knew she was right. The doomsday weapons could kill billions. They could sterilize entire solar systems. They could crack planets. But using them would prove the Federation correct. That humanity was too dangerous to exist. Before he could respond, every communication system on Earth suddenly activated. A message was being broadcast on all frequencies. It was not from the Federation fleet. It was coming from somewhere else. Attention Earth forces. Attention Federation fleet. This is Ambassador Nicole Brennan. I am speaking from the eldest coalition vessel, Eternal Witness. I carry a message from the ancient powers. Both sides will cease hostilities immediately or face intervention from forces neither can defeat. Jake nearly fell over. Nicole was supposed to be on Earth. How was she on an alien ship? And what was the eldest coalition? The message continued. The Galactic Federation has violated its own founding principles. The quarantine and attempted extermination of humanity is illegal under laws older than most current member species. The eldest coalition has reviewed the evidence and rendered its verdict. This war ends now. Admiral Vorath was equally shocked. The eldest coalition had not intervened in galactic politics for thousands of years. They were species so old and powerful that even the Federation feared them. If they were taking a position, it changed everything. A new ship appeared on sensors. It was massive, dwarfing even the largest Federation dreadnought. The vessel looked ancient, covered in designs and symbols from civilizations long gone. It moved between the two fleets with casual ease. Federation forces, you will stand down and withdraw to the orbit of Jupiter, a new voice commanded. It was old and tired but carried absolute authority. Earth forces, you will hold position but not advance. We will now discuss terms of peace. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Admiral Vorath gave the order to pull back. He knew when he was outmatched. The Federation fleet began a slow retreat. Jake activated the emergency broadcast to all human forces. All ships weapons safe, hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon. Ryan let out a breath he did not know he was holding. His weapons officer looked at him with confusion. Sir, are we standing down? For now, Ryan replied. Let us see what happens next. On the eldest coalition ship, Nicole met with representatives of both sides. The meeting chamber was enormous, filled with beings from dozens of ancient species. Some looked like crystals, others were clouds of energy. A few appeared almost human, but with eyes that held the weight of millions of years. The leader was a Prothex elder named Savarith. It spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. We have watched this war with growing concern, Savarith said. The Federation has forgotten the lessons of the past. You have become what you once fought against, an empire that destroys those who will not submit. One of the Federation representatives tried to object. The humans are dangerous. They possess weapons that violate every treaty. They destroyed an entire planet. After you declared your intention to exterminate them, Savarith replied coldly. Did you expect them to die quietly? Did you think they would not fight for survival? The Prothex turned its attention to the human side. Jake had been brought up to the ship via shuttle. He stood beside Nicole, trying to comprehend what was happening. And you, humans, Savarith continued, you have proven your capability for violence. You have shown that you will do anything to survive. But will you also destroy yourselves in the process? Will you become monsters to defeat monsters? Jake thought about the doomsday weapons waiting on Earth. He thought about Mars, blown apart in a moment of desperate calculation. We did what we had to do to survive, nothing more. Perhaps, Savarith said. But survival at any cost is its own kind of death. You must decide what kind of species you want to be. Victims, victors, or something else entirely. The negotiations lasted for 3 days. The eldest coalition presented evidence that the Federation had violated its own laws by declaring war on humanity without just cause. The Federation argued that humanity's weapons were too dangerous. The humans argued that those weapons only existed because the Federation forced them to build such things. Finally, a compromise was reached. The war would end. The quarantine would be lifted. Humanity would be granted independence with secure borders. But there were conditions. Earth will dismantle its most destructive weapons, Savarith declared. The doomsday devices and planet killers will be destroyed under Eldest supervision. In exchange, the Federation will recognize human sovereignty and will not interfere in human space. A neutral zone will be established between Federation space and human territory. Jake did not like giving up weapons, but he understood the logic. And what about justice for the Federation's illegal war? They killed millions of our people. The Federation will pay reparations, Savarith said. Technologies will be shared. Trade agreements will be established. It will not bring back the dead, but it is what can be offered. The vote among the Eldest coalition was unanimous. The vote among the Federation representatives was closer, but it passed. Many species were relieved to end a war that had cost them so dearly. Others were angry that humanity was being allowed to exist, but none were willing to defy the Eldest. President Hartman addressed Earth from the war room. His face showed the exhaustion of 6 months of constant stress. The war is over. We survived. The cost was terrible, but we are still here. The Federation has agreed to leave us alone. We will have peace. Across Earth, people reacted with mixed emotions. Joy that the war was over. Grief for those lost. Anger at the price paid. Relief that they would not have to use the worst weapons humanity had created. Captain Ryan Fletcher gathered his crew on the Defiance. They had survived every battle. Their ship was scarred, but still flying. "We did it," he said simply. "We are going home." His crew cheered, but the sound was tired. They were too exhausted for real celebration. They just wanted to rest. Chief Engineer Amy began the long process of cataloging damage to the ship. It would take months of repairs to get the Defiance back to full capability. But they had time now, time to rebuild, time to heal. Major Chris Palmer oversaw the demobilization of planetary defense forces. Millions of civilians had trained to fight. Now they could return to their normal lives. But Chris knew things would never be truly normal again. Earth had changed. Its people had changed. Dr. Lisa Chen stood in the weapons research facility and watched as the doomsday devices were systematically dismantled under Eldest supervision. Part of her was relieved. These weapons had terrified even their creators, but part of her worried. What if humanity needed them someday? An Eldest observer, a being of pure energy, seemed to read her thoughts. "You fear being helpless again. This is natural, but true security comes not from weapons, but from wisdom. You have proven you can fight. Now prove you can do more than fight." Ambassador Nicole returned to Earth as a hero. She had somehow connected with the Eldest coalition during her time in Federation space and convinced them to intervene. Without her, the war might have ended very differently. Jake found his sister Kate on the observation deck of the Retribution. They looked at Earth together, the blue planet that had survived against all odds. "Do you think this peace will last?" Kate asked. "I do not know," Jake admitted. "The Federation fears us now. That fear could turn to respect, or it could fester into hatred. We will have to be vigilant." "Always preparing for the next war," Kate said sadly. "No," Jake replied. "Preparing so there does not have to be a next war." There is a difference. In the halls of the Galactic Federation, the mood was somber. They had suffered their worst military defeat in recorded history. Some species called for reforms. Others called for revenge. The debate would continue for years. But among the Eldest species, there was quiet satisfaction. They had seen humanity face extinction and refuse to yield. They had seen a young species prove that submission was not the only path to survival. Perhaps in time, humanity would teach the Federation what they had forgotten, that peace without the ability to defend yourself was just slavery with better marketing. 1 year after the war ended, Admiral Kate Morrison stood at a memorial on the lunar surface. It listed the names of every human who died in the war. Thousands of names, so many lives lost. But they had won something precious, the right to exist, the right to determine their own future, the right to stand among the stars as equals, not subjects. She looked up at Earth, hanging in the black sky. The planet was healing. Cities were being rebuilt. The orbital defense network was being maintained but not expanded. Humanity was keeping its promise to dismantle the worst weapons while maintaining enough defense to never be helpless again. Captain Ryan Fletcher was there too, standing beside his ship. The Defiance had been fully repaired and was back on patrol duty. But now they patrolled human space, not looking for enemies, but ensuring the peace held. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Ryan asked Kate. "Giving up those weapons?" Kate considered the question. "I think we made the only choice we could live with. We proved we could build terrible things. Now we have to prove we are more than our weapons." Jake Morrison had returned to civilian life. He worked as an advisor to the diplomatic corps, helping to establish relations with species that had not been part of the war. Some were curious about humanity, others were cautious, all were respectful. One day he received a message from Savorith, the Prothex elder. It was simple but profound. "You have passed the first test. You survived. Now comes the harder test. Can you build something worth surviving for?" Jake thought about that message for a long time. Humanity had proven it could fight. It had proven it could endure terrible costs to survive. But what kind of civilization would they build now? That question remained unanswered as Earth entered a new era. The galaxy watched humanity carefully, some with hope, some with fear, but all with the knowledge that this young species had done something remarkable. They had stood alone against overwhelming force and refused to die. They had turned their home system into a fortress and their desperation into weapons. They had sacrificed one of their own worlds to prove they would not be exterminated without a cost too high for any conqueror to pay. The Galactic Court had outlawed humanity, expecting easy prey. Instead, they found a nightmare, and in surviving that nightmare, humanity had earned something rare in the galaxy. Not just independence, but respect. The kind of respect that comes only through fire and blood. Earth stood alone among the stars now, but humanity stood unbowed. And in the darkness of space, they continued to build, to grow, and to prove that they were more than survivors. They were builders of a future worth fighting for. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. "What do we do now?" President Hartman asked. Jake pulled up a new display. It showed weapons systems that had not been used yet. Things so terrible that even he was afraid of them. "We show them that Mars was not the worst thing we can do. We show them that if they want to exterminate humanity, they will pay a price too high for any sane species to accept." Kate looked at her brother. "You are talking about the doomsday weapons, the ones we swore never to use." "I am talking about survival," Jake replied. "They started this war, but we are going to finish it, one way or another." The war was entering its final phase. Both sides were exhausted and bloody. But neither would surrender. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity faced extinction. They were about to learn that some species would burn the entire universe down rather than die quietly. Ration did not pursue. They had lost too many ships to risk another close engagement. Both sides pulled back to lick their wounds. The first major battle was over. The Federation had lost over 200 ships. Earth had lost 23 of its precious warships. The mathematics were clear. At this rate, humanity would run out of ships long before the Federation did. In the war room, Jake stared at the casualty reports. Thousands of people dead in just 3 days of fighting. And this was only the beginning. "We cannot win a straight fight," he said quietly. "Then we do not fight straight," Kate replied. "It is time for the next phase. Lisa, prepare Saturn and send the order to Mars. Protocol Scorched Earth is now active." Jake nodded. The really terrible weapons were about to come into play. The Federation thought they had seen humanity at its worst. They were wrong. Jake looked at the displays showing Earth's defenses. 200 warships against thousands. Automated defense platforms against planet-killing weapons. Determination against overwhelming force. "We are as ready as we will ever be," Jake said. Hartman nodded. "Then we wait." The waiting was the hardest part. Across Earth, people went about their final preparations. Families said goodbye. Soldiers checked their equipment one more time. Scientists ran last-minute tests on weapon systems. And in the darkness of space, the Federation fleet began to move into attack formation. The time for talking was over. The time for war had begun. Jake looked around at the activity. "Can we do it?" Lisa smiled, but there was no humor in it. "We better, because the Federation does not know it yet. But they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They backed humanity into a corner. Now they are going to learn what that means." On the other side of the lab, a massive screen showed the blockade fleet in orbit. The alien ships glowed like angry stars. They were waiting, watching, preparing to kill every human in existence. But down below, in the hidden facilities and secret laboratories, humanity was preparing too. The Federation had judged them too dangerous to live. Now Earth would prove them right. The countdown had begun. 1 year until the blockade became absolute. 1 year until the Federation came to finish what they had started. 1 year for humanity to transform from a peaceful species into the galaxy's worst nightmare.